In this series, I discuss the 10 most highly transferred in FPL players for the upcoming game week and whether you should consider swiping left or right for them. 10th on the list this week with 140,000 transfers in is the Arsenal forward Viktor Gyökeres. This week, the Gunners have one of the standout fixtures of the game week in West Ham at home, who's a team they always seem to score heavily against. Although the Hammers have recently appointed Nuno as their new manager, I don't think it will be enough to influence the way that this one's gonna go, with the Gunners tipped to be big favourites. Given a very appealing upcoming run of fixtures, and the fact that Kai Havertz remains out with a knee injury, I think Gyökeres is a buy this week. However, he hasn't exactly set the world alight with his performances, and there's always an outside chance that Arteta decides to play somebody else like Trossard down the middle. Having returned from a short spell out on the sidelines, Ismaila Sarr returned from an injury to pick up an 11-pointer against Liverpool, and that means that he's now scored 3 goals in 4 games this season. Palace appear to be a completely different attacking prospect with Sarr in the side, and when looking at his average position map, he's generally playing very advanced, often finding himself the furthest player up the field. Apart from a tough away match versus Arsenal in a few weeks' time, Palace's fixtures look pretty encouraging from an attacking perspective all the way up until around game week 15. I think at 6.4 million, he's a fantastic attacking option for one of the most informed teams in the division currently. Jeremy Doku continued his impressive run of form with a 10-pointer against Burnley, and that means that he's now returned 4 assists for the season so far. Of course, when it comes to Pep, we never quite know who will start for City and who will be a surprise benching, but at the moment, Doku appears to be a pivotal player in most of their attacking build-up play, so I can't see him being left out. I think that if you do want to go for the City midfielder, now is the best time to make that move, as his next 4 fixtures include Brentford, Everton, Villa and Bournemouth, who are all teams that have shown signs of defensive fragilities, having conceded a total of 30 goals amongst themselves. I'm swiping right on Doku this week, but I don't think he's an essential player to have in your team moving forwards. Alderete has been picked up by 189,000 FPL managers this week, following his enormous 17-pointer versus Nottingham Forest in game week 6. At just 4 million, the Sunderland centre-back is definitely a good budget option to go for on a wild card, but in terms of a single transfer in, I'm not so sure that it's worth going there. Sunderland have unquestionably impressed so far this season, having only conceded 4 times. However, they have had some favourable fixtures across those matches, and it looks as though their upcoming fixtures may be slightly more challenging from a defensive point of view. I'm going to swipe left on him this week, but I totally understand if you're somebody who wants to go there on a wild card. Unbelievably, with 6 game weeks gone, Jadon Anthony sits second for total points amongst all midfielders in the game. Even though Burnley have leaked a lot of goals since the campaign began, they've looked somewhat dangerous down the other end of the pitch, and Anthony has taken up some decent attacking positions with an average XG of 0.36. With the way FPL has played out so far this season, many of us have ended up with a squad structure that involves 1 or 2 budget midfielders, and to be honest, Anthony seems like the perfect player for us to start some weeks and bench in others. With upcoming games against Villa, Leeds, Wolves and West Ham, I can definitely see goals there, and for that reason, he's a buy. Many FPL managers brought in Gabriel on a game week 6 wildcard ahead of Arsenal's favourable fixture run, and they were rewarded in dramatic fashion with a last-minute headed goal and all 3 bonus, giving the centre-back a total of 13 points. It was only really a matter of time before Gabriel returned something from a set piece, and this week he faces a West Ham side who themselves have already conceded 9 times from set pieces in the league this season. I can see the Gunners picking up 3 clean sheets over their next 5 fixtures, and with Gabriel, of course, there's both goal threat and DEFCON potential. He has to be a priority transfer in this week, in my opinion. With just over 250,000 transfers in this week, Semenyo continues to maintain his place as one of the most popular FPL options this season. The midfielder is now owned by over 50% of managers, and he's already had 8 price rises. And to be honest, that doesn't surprise me, given his current form. We saw him take and convert a penalty in game week 4, and last week we saw him step up and score from a direct free kick. So there's no doubt that the Ghanaian has multiple routes to points. I don't know about you, but to me it feels as though there are limited options to choose from in the game at the moment, and I really can't see anything not to like about Semenyo. He's a definite swipe right. Although Palace failed to register a clean sheet in their last match against Liverpool, Mark Guehi managed to bag an assist, meaning that he's returned in a remarkable 5 of the first 6 game weeks. He always seems to find himself in the right position during set pieces, and I wonder if that's going to continue throughout future games. The big question here is really twofold. Firstly, do you go for a Palace defender altogether, given their tough run of upcoming fixtures? And secondly, should you pick Guehi over other defensive options? Personally, I think it's best to avoid their entire backline for at least the next 3 game weeks, and so for that reason, he's an avoid for me. With James Tarkowski failing to register DEFCON points for the first time this season against West Ham, Senesi remains the only defender in the game who's hit that threshold across all 6 game weeks. I spoke about Senesi in my video last week, saying that on top of DEFCON, we know that from last season there's the potential for attacking returns, and that turned out to be the case, with the centre-back picking up a last-minute assist at home to Leeds. It's a tough one to call this week, because Bournemouth don't look to have many good chances of keeping clean sheets over their next 4, with them facing the likes of Fulham, Crystal Palace and Man City. Reluctantly, I'm going to swipe right on him this week, but I definitely don't think he's a priority transfer in. With just shy of 500,000 transfers in, and topping the list 2 weeks in a row, Erling Haaland continues to be sought after, following his 16-point haul against Burnley. Haaland has already scored 8 goals in the Premier League this season, and he's averaging a ridiculous XG of 1.32 per 90 across the season. The Norwegian faces a couple of decent defences in Brentford and Everton over the next 2, but even so, with the way that he's playing, you'd say that he's pretty fixture-proof. I think the only discussion to be had over the next few game weeks is whether you decide to double up on premium assets with both Haaland and Salah, but at the moment, the City striker looks to be far more essential, and for that reason, he's a definite swipe right. But what do you think of my choices? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, make sure to check out the Differential 11 team for Game Week 7. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, best of luck in hitting those big green arrows.